Okay, the last topic that we need to cover in this class is how to solve trigonometric equations. So for example, tomorrow I'm going to give you equations that look something like this. I'm going to say 2/3 times the sine of x minus 3 is equal to -2. Okay? And we're going to solve expressions that look like that. And when we go to solve trigonometric equations, the issue is that we come up with many answers. So sometimes you come up with 2, sometimes you come up with 3. We'll come up with situations where we get 6 answers, okay? And so to understand how to generate those answers, you have to be able to understand how to do reference angles. And reference angles are acute angles formed between the terminal side of the angle and the x-axis. So first of all, what does it mean to be acute? Between 0 and 90, okay? Acute angles are between 0 and 90, all right? So I'm going to draw 3 different angles here, and then after I draw those 3 angles, I'm going to show what the reference angle would be. So my first angle, I'm going to draw in blue. The reference angle would be this amount right here. How you do? So suppose this was 110 degrees. What would this black arc measure? 70. So that's an example of a reference angle. Suppose that I have an angle right here that measures 340 degrees. Then its reference angle is going to sit right here. It's the acute angle formed between the terminal side and the x-axis. What would you say is the measure of that angle? Why 20? Good. So you're always looking at 0 and 360 and at 180 degrees. So you could see that Andy took 180 minus 110, and he took 360 minus 340. You always take the bigger angle minus the smaller angle. Always that. Okay. And then I'll draw one more. Suppose you have an angle that looks like this. We will call it 230 degrees. This would be the reference angle, which would be 50 degrees. All right. So we're going to practice. We're going to do 9 problems where we're finding the reference angle, and then you will have time to work. 125 degrees. Which quadrant will that place me in? Second quadrant. So that arc is going to be the reference angle. I take the larger minus the smaller. So I take 180 minus 125, which is 55 degrees is your reference angle. Which quadrant would 200 be in? I'll be in the third quadrant. What is going to be that reference angle? 20 degrees. So if you're in the second or third quadrant, you're going to be dealing with 180. If you're in the first quadrant, you're going to do a 0, and if you're in the second quadrant, you'll be dealing with 360. So 37 degrees. Anybody guess? 37. The angle is its own reference angle. Why don't you try the next 3 on your own? See if you can get them. Draw the angle. You guys another 30 seconds to think through those, and then you can glance up and check. How you guys doing? Good? Any questions on those 3? Okay, then let's do the last 3. What's different about this one? Letter G. It's negative. Negative 116. Which quadrant will that place me in? Place me in the third quadrant. And it's close to negative 180 degrees. To calculate the reference angle, again, I will take the larger number minus the smaller number. What is larger, negative 116 or negative 180? Negative 116 is larger. I would rather have negative $116 in my bank account than negative $180 in my bank account. Minus negative 180. Or I'd rather be negative 116 outside than negative 180. Right. So I will subtract, and as I add the opposite, I get 64 degrees. Sometimes it's challenging to figure out what quadrant you would be in. For example, negative 493. Let's count some of our negative angles. That would be negative. This is negative how much? Yeah, negative 90. So this would be negative, then negative 270, then negative. So we're not there yet, are we? Then negative 450, and then negative 540. So which quadrant will negative 493 place you in? Into the third quadrant. Because it's between negative 450 and negative 540. Negative 493. So how do I find the reference angle? I take the larger minus the smaller. Negative 493 minus negative 540. And 47? We'll do one more. 181. Which quadrant? What's the reference angle? 1 degree. That's all there is to it. And we will not work with radians. Because as we solve these equations, we're going to solve for all the answers in degrees. Okay? And so, so we'll just work with the degrees. We'll make that a little bit simpler that way. So one day working on reference angles, and then the rest of the week we will be solving for trigonometric equations, which means that we will be testing sometime early next week, which means we will then have about 1 week to prepare for the final exam. Okay? And that's what's left on our calendar. So for those of you who would like to bring treats, I will bring on the 22nd, since that is my birthday. You're welcome to bring gifts, cash, checks, credit cards, whatever you want. Okay, why don't you laugh at that, Shayla? Huh? It was funny. Okay. All right, so, but yeah, if you want to bring your birthday treats, we'll celebrate for you. We had 3 birthdays today in other classes, so. All right, your assignment is a worksheet that I'll give to you right now.